Hello and welcome to 2025. I'm Starlene, Breiter here with Mark Matheny. We're going to be talking about the upcoming astrology for 2025, the year overall, and then getting into the month of January. So we do these videos monthly, talking about the astrology coming up for the month. So this should be an interesting view of what's to come. What do you think, Mark?
I don't think anyone's going to be ready for. It's just going to be slightly weirder up until like March 14th, and then it's uncharted territory after that.
Okay, what happens March 14th that makes you say that?
So that is so we have the lunar eclipse at 24 Virgo, and then the next day Mercury stations retrograde, and also Venus is already retrograde at that point. So and then there's at that point there's a Sun, Neptune, Saturn, North Node, stellium in Pisces. And actually, yeah, shortly after that, Venus retrogrades back into Pisces. And then Mars will be in Cancer, trine to all those Pisces planets. And Mars will be moving towards the third and final opposition to Pluto a couple weeks after that. And January 3rd is the second of the three. So we're like 12 hours away from that, and it should
the Mars-Pluto.
It should be the Mars-Pluto opposition, and it should be very apparent to everyone at this point that Mars and Pluto are in opposition.
I mean, it's been a really eventful already, like what, 48 hours into maybe more than 48. Is it more than 48? I don't know. But anyway, 2 days into the new year, that's been, it hasn't stopped. If anybody has paid attention to any news, less than 48. Yeah, right, because at midnight it would be 48. So it's been eventful. Gosh, I saw so much stuff going on in the news yesterday. It was like one of those things where you have to remind yourself to be balanced because, chaos is around you no matter which way you look. Interesting. So you think the pinnacle of our year is going to be March? Is that what you're saying with the eclipse?
Like and mid-March through April is going to be the highlight or low light, if you want. Yeah,
slightly like terrifying to hear you say that.
March 14th through April 27th is gonna be crazy, and then July, the first part of July is absolutely nuts. Really, the focus of this year is like 27 degrees Pisces to like 2 or 3 degrees Aries. There's an exceptional amount of stuff happening in those areas because we're getting ready in about 5 days. The nodes move into Pisces and Virgo from Aries and Libra, where they've been for the last year and a half. And Jupiter changes signs in June. Saturn and Neptune will kind of be doing what Pluto did the last 4 years, where it starts inching into the next sign. But it's going to be moving from Pisces to Aries, both of them, and then retrograding back and then going forward. And it'll be 2026 before we're totally into Saturn and Neptune and Aries. And also Uranus moves from Taurus into Gemini for part of this year, and it's going to retrograde back into Taurus and then move into Gemini for good next year. So we've come out of this Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, all in earth and water signs. And by like one at a time, they're moving into air or fire signs, so that where the last 4 years has kind of been a boot stomping you in the face repeatedly, where we're going to go now is everything's just going to go a million miles a second in a million different directions. It's going to go from this inward chaos to like the outward chaos. That's kind of where we are. And
The external chaos.
Nothing is with all these retrogrades at the end of Pisces and into Aries and then back into Pisces. Nothing's going. Do not injure your brain by trying to make sense of anything. This is not the year to try and make sense of what's going on. Like, focus on what your immediate surroundings and what you can control. It's the news cycle's not gonna. It's just gonna be clown world 24/7, 365. It's not. It's just gonna get slowly weird from now until that March 14th, but then things just go. It just gets crazy.
So, okay, so let's pick that apart a little bit. So, slowly weird. And do you have any things that you would say could potentially happen because of the slowly weird? Obviously, we have these strong things, these strong aspects coming up that are powerful. Like you said, the Mars opposite Pluto, that's happening very soon, and then Mercury moving into Aquarius. Uranus station direct, all this is going on in January, including the nodes too. Like, if you could think about predicting, I know prediction's weird with astrology, but what would that look like in the real world, in a real world context of sorts?
So there's been several big news stories the last couple weeks, and I think that so I think what's difficult. Let me find a starting point here, I guess.
A PC.
So I think what's difficult for the normal part of the population that does not have a lot of Pisces planets native to their birth chart is
Would be me.
that the Pisces doesn't function like time. Saturn, which rules time, is in Pisces, and it's been there for a little bit over a year, I think. So the time doesn't function normally. Nothing really functions normally. I mean, we had a tornado here last week, like in December.
In December? Yeah, I was gonna say that's not really normal, is it?
No, it is not normal. December is not tornado season in the northern hemisphere of the United States.
That's what I thought. Same with we had a hurricane. If we had a hurricane this time of year, not normal.
Yeah, it just doesn't nothing's going to jive or make sense from our how we normally perceive things, and I think that's going to be a good. And just like the things with the drones and stuff, we're not going to get a satisfactory answer as to what those are. We're just going to get like layers of confusion upon layers of confusion is how that's going to go. And that's kind of where the while Saturn and Neptune will not actually be conjunct until next year at 0 degrees Aries, they're going to closely cohabitate in Pisces for a good portion of this year. So Saturn is our 3D reality, our 3D structures. Neptune is the foggy world outside of our normal everyday existence. Neptune is dreamland. So just as I said, and I gave a class in 2010, I think it was, when Neptune first entered Pisces. I had said then that things would just get progressively weirder as Neptune moved through Pisces. Now we're at the very end, like Neptune's at like 27.5 Pisces now, and it's not going to get lower than that from here on out. We're going to be at like 28, 29 Pisces, 0 Aries, 29 Pisces, 0 Aries. That's like where Neptune's going to be for the next year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It's when Saturn and Neptune meet, it kind of it changes our worldview and how we function and perceive things, and normal problem solving things, which are a strength for Saturn, are not going to function properly because Neptune's mixed in there. And the normal Neptune things, the dream life, psychic abilities, intuition, that kind of thing, are not going to function properly because they're mixed with Saturn. So Saturn and Neptune we're going to have to find new ways to traverse the Neptunian pink fog, which used to be our reality.
I mean, I know. And when Neptune was moving into Pisces, was when we first started doing videos, which is really funny because it's a long time ago. But we were calling it the pink fluffy clouds. And you know what? The pink fluffy clouds, in other words, it's like you're living in a kind of a fog. It's okay for some time, but after a while, it gets to be where it's, I don't know, it gets disorienting, if that's the right word for things. You feel disoriented. So, would you say disorientation of Saturn moving out of Pisces and into Aries, is that something that's going to happen? We're going to become kind of slapped with reality.
Yeah. So normally Saturn will help give structure to the Neptunian imagination and dream life. It will help you bring spiritual things into your 3D world, into your 3D reality. But not like I just see, I'm just already seeing everything just getting like jostled, where it's like there's going to be so many fake news stories, and like the level of and quality of like the artificial intelligence videos, and made by AI and stuff. I'm seeing these like pop up on like tons of websites and stuff already. So like kind of unfortunately that technology is going to like get really good to like, even if we see video of stuff, we're not really going to know if it's true or not.
Yeah, I believe it. I've seen some of it too. It's kind of creepy. And I mean, it's cool because the technology is cool, but humans are not always cool. They can make things a little bit not good.
Not great at discerning fiction from nonfiction.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's going to be a struggle. I'm trying to. What's this doing?
So
Okay. Hi, everybody in chat. I'm trying to type and it's not letting me type. But
oh, that's
how
great.
that's how it goes. Okay.
Okay, so today Venus is going into Pisces, right? And you know, I will also mention
Yes.
too that the Sun is making that quincunx to Jupiter that exacts tonight. I mean, that's only a one, you know, one aspect thing going on, but I always think that quincunxes make things weird, funky, weird. I mean, we also do have the Pluto and Mars opposition to each other. These are just different connecting things. But do you ever read quincunxes or no? I just kind of like skip over them.
I do. Yeah. No, so I do. I don't put them in a lot of like my signatures and stuff because I find that they're so tricky, and that like you have to. They can be really good or really difficult. So just like how I look at the quincunxes is that the two planets do not communicate well naturally. There has to be an adjustment made.
Right. Right. An adjustment made to kind of make them work well together. And then the Sun, so the Sun and Jupiter would mean that, I mean, maybe externally with the Jupiter expansion and the Sun being the personal exterior, not syncing up, if that makes sense. So what's around us might feel off.
Yes.
Off centered. Yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, I know
things feel a little shaky right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, we've had already those two things that have happened. I mean, that I know of, it's only been two. I saw a couple people talking about something else that was going on in Washington, D.C. today, that they closed down certain sectors because of a person driving crazy and they weren't sure what it was. But I mean, the two things that happened yesterday and over the New Year's evening, in what was it? Texas? Was it Texas the first one? And the fireworks going off in that Cybertruck? Was that in Texas?
Oh,
or was it Vegas?
It was outside of one of the Trump towers. Out of
Yeah,
one of Trump's
I don't know where that was. Yeah,
I forget where that was. There was also another mass casualty event in New York outside of a nightclub.
Oh, so I missed that one.
Yeah, that one kind
I
of
entirely missed the New York. Wow.
Yeah.
When did that happen? On New Year's Eve?
No, that was. I think that was. I don't even know what day it is anymore. That was either New Year, like early New Year's Day, or late last night. I kind of lost track of everything is going so fast right now. I'm having a difficulty keeping up with everything.
Yeah, no, I didn't hear about that one. That was when I didn't hear. I heard about the New Orleans thing that happened with the guy. He had an ISIS flag on the back of his truck, and then I heard about the thing in front of the Trump Towers, which was really crazy. I think the guy ended up dying in the vehicle too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you weren't. Yeah. And that's with all these things. We don't know how many perpetrators. We don't know if there are terrorist attacks. We don't. I mean, this is all this like truly Piscean stuff. Like, so the New York thing, I guess, was like early in the morning, New Year's Day. So probably just a few hours after the New Orleans thing. 10 people shot outside a Queens nightclub as 4 gunmen opened fire. Looks like.
Wow, that's crazy. So the first two, with not the New York one because I didn't know about it, but the first two, they were also people that were in the military. You know, did you know that were once in the military and also
The,
connected
the New
somehow?
Orleans one, I knew that.
Yeah,
I
but they
did
said
not
also the one. Yep, the one that. Yep, the other one. I
outside
don't even
the
know where it was, where it happened. Can't keep track of them all. That's right, Sarah. It's hard to keep track of them. I
yeah.
agree. Yep. Yeah, the DC one was today, Christina. So it was if they got the person who was driving crazy in the car, but they locked down a good part of it because of that. So it's just crazy. And the fog. I don't know. Did you guys have a fog
And
where
the
you were
fog.
at? Weirdly
How
enough, we did.
Neptunian.
Right.
How that.
Neptunian. Oh my gosh, I didn't even
So
think about that.
the Cybertruck thing was in Las Vegas.
Oh, it was in Vegas. Okay. I thought it might be there.
That was
Yeah.
yeah. And it was a Tesla that caught fire. So but like all these things we don't know and are probably never going to know the real story of what happened. Like this is part of the Neptune and late Pisces with um the Mars Pluto opposition is there's uh misguided, misdirected anger and violence, and we're probably never really going to find out exactly what happened. It's just going to be additional layers of fog added onto everything.
Right.
That
Right.
that's
And
how Pisces work.
that you don't end up like really understanding the entirety of it, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Yep. The big picture shall remain elusive until morale improves.
Wow. Comparatively, because I've also heard about some of the potential illnesses that could be going around, the newer illnesses or problems. So, you know, that's also a thing. So, have you heard this already, or am I just now blowing your mind open? Did you
This
hear about it? No.
is this is this the bird flu thing?
Yeah, yeah. Have you heard about this? You're like
I
not
have
speaking.
heard about it.
That's terrifying. I'm sorry.
The media seems to be pushing it pretty hard right now.
Ah.
You're gonna have to color me skeptical on that one. My my
I think I
my
had the
trust
bird
in
flu.
every
I
my
think I
trust
had
in
it in
any government
2006 or
source
8,
is
whenever it
zero
was.
right
No, seriously, that I agree with that. I don't trust the mainstream media. I mean, I don't trust really any media because they're all pushing their own agenda. Even if there's someone I like speaking, they
now.
have an agenda of sorts. They just do. It's just the reality of it. They're not all factual based. Some are more than others, but if we don't know that now, like we should know that. That's for sure. And
We
definitely
we
the planets
we
don't
should
help
know
this.
that.
We should, but you know, we should know a lot. So, okay, let's go back to the astrology because I'm getting us derailed talking about politics. I'm probably going to make people mad. So, in January, what is our like top fun, best, maybe craziest thing going on? Is that going to be the nose?
So 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 the thing here is between tonight and January 6th. I'm sorry. Between tonight and January 12th. So Venus enters Pisces tonight. So it's going to be cohabitating with Saturn and Neptune. Then early tomorrow morning, January 3rd, the Mars Pluto opposition is exact for the second of 3 hits. So you can expect more violent things in the news thread. And then on January 6th, which is also a key date politically, Mars is going to retrograde, and we're in the middle of this Mars retrograde, or this Mars period where it's only in 2 signs for like a 9-month period from like September 1st of last year up until I think it's mid-June of this year, or I can look right here. It's June 17th of this year before Mars will be in a sign other than Cancer or Leo. And a large portion of the political figures that I'm trying not to get our video killed by saying trigger words.
Say them in what's that extra language that we learned when we were kids? Pig Latin. Say them in Pig Latin. There you go. Do you speak in Pig Latin? I do, but maybe everyone else doesn't.
Ixnay on the Igpay.
That's right.
So Mars is going to re-enter Cancer. It's retrograde. It's going to re-enter Cancer on January 6th. And then on the 12th, the nodes are going to switch signs. And we've had North Node in Aries, South Node in Libra, and we're going to be moving to North Node in Pisces, South Node in Virgo. The North Node will then be conjunct Neptune at that point. Once it like enters Pisces, it's going to be conjunct Neptune. And that eclipse in March, the first of the 2 eclipses in March, on March 14th, is a lunar eclipse at 24 Virgo, and it should be conjunct. I'm going to double. It's going to be conjunct the South Node.
Oh, that sounds terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lunar eclipse in Virgo conjunct the South Node. That's March 14th. So with planets entering Pisces, things are just going to continually get weirder. That's just kind of where we are. And that's where it's gonna stay. It's gonna stay weird.
So this is going to be the more challenging of the parts. What are the highlights of the positive parts of the year? I know these are more challenging that you were talking about. Or are there even?
So to me, the most positive aspect we're going to have this year is June 9th. Jupiter's going to enter Cancer, and it's going to stay there for a year.
Right.
So Jupiter is in I don't use these that often, but Jupiter's going to be in exaltation in Cancer. Mm-hmm. So Jupiter in Cancer is very considerate and caring and looking to help others and help feed and nurture others. So Jupiter in Cancer, I think, is a fabulous placement. And it's going to be trying to well, I guess that's probably more next year, I guess, early next year, is Jupiter will be trying to Neptune. So, but Jupiter in Cancer is a good transit. So the last of the 3 Mars Pluto oppositions is, well, let me not, I'm going to stop jumping out of order. I keep jumping out of order. So yeah. So for January, like by January 12th, we're going to have Venus, North Node, Saturn, and Neptune in Pisces. So things are just going to gradually get weirder. And then there's a full moon at 24 Cancer on January 13th. and that's going to be conjunct Mars. Mars is going to be conjunct that full moon, which is usually not a beneficial thing. And then at the end of January, on the 30th, Uranus, which has been retrograde for like 4 or 5 months now, Uranus is going to station direct at 23 Taurus. And so usually like this time of year is kind of a lull because like we're past the holidays, things are in Capricorn, so things feel a little more stable.
More stable.
But everything is super, in comparison. But things are going to just slowly just kind of get weirder and unravel a little bit. And then on January 19th, when the sun enters Aquarius, that's usually the first, that's usually like when we wake up from the, the holiday coma. But I think we're probably that full moon on the 13th is going to be pretty potent. Because it's also because at that point too, the sun is going to be trine Uranus, and Uranus is going to station direct 2 weeks after that. So there's a pretty significant amount of energy for January.
This does make sense, I think that I don't know, keeping yourself on in some way a little more grounded is probably going to help. Not also getting caught up in delusions of other people, because that does seem to pop up a bit with the Pisces energy, and maybe that's just me because I have no water in my chart. I'm like too grounded or something. I don't know. I don't know if that's right or not, because I'm also very Aries, so that just negates all of the groundedness. Just a little bit on the I don't know, weird side.
But you're past the Pluto conjunction to your sun. I mean, it's still really close.
Oh, but Mark, you forgot that my midhaven is also 1 degree of Aquarius, so I'm getting that, and then my Venus is 5, and then just forget it. I'm screwed for the next 10 years. I'm a stellium of planets in the first part of Aquarius. I've accepted my fate. I'm okay with that. Yeah, I had my last Pluto over my sun. I think it was early December is what the last time it actually hit it, because it was 3 hits of that. I was fortunate enough to get that. And yeah, now it's right in between the midhaven and the sun, which is only 1 degree apart. So it's really hitting both of them. So yeah, I can see transformations. I mean, I get it. Everything does transform and we change, and we don't change unless, that's the thing about transformation. We don't change and become better people or do better with ourselves unless we have something as a catalyst to create that to happen. So it's kind of just weathering the storm and then picking the good parts out of it so that you can carry it with you instead of getting weighed down by the heaviness of things. And I guess that's where my brain has been at with all of it, kind of keeping yourself more stable so you're not not swayed too much. I also realize that it's not something you can change. If the energy is present for you to experience a Pluto transit like I am doing, or all of us are doing on some degree or another as it's moving along in the zodiac, then it's a choice to kind of allow it to control you, or you to see it for what it is and not let it control you. And that goes for any of the planets, even the Saturn and Neptune conjunction that's coming up. And that'll be a theme for this year as they get closer and come to be actually conjunct. When does that happen, by the way? That's in 26, right?
That's March or something of March.
Oh, so it's a whole year and change away. Yeah. And I didn't look.
Yeah. They both do 1 or more retrogrades between now and then, so it's they both enter Aries late this year, and then retrograde back into Pisces. Some
Yeah.
are like the middle part of the year is its own entity, whereas like the first part and last part of the year are more similar to each other, and the middle part of the year is like March through end of August or something is more
It's easier. It seems a little more chill. Is that right? Or no?
I think it's a different flavor of weird. That first week of end of June, first week of July is troubling.
Let me look at this.
It
End
does
of
not
June,
look.
first week of July. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's the then the Neptune. That's what you're talking about. The Neptune station retrograde, right?
Yeah. So Neptune stations on July 4th, and we're still we have the Jupiter Neptune square still kind of in effect, and Mars is in Virgo at that point. And so on July 4th, we had Neptune stations at 2 degrees Aries. So Neptune's already moved into Aries by then, but it's going to retrograde back into Pisces. Venus is going to enter Gemini on July 4th. And then on July 7th, Uranus, which has been in Taurus for most of the last 7 years, is going to make its first entrance into Gemini. And then there's a full moon on July 10th, and July 13th, Saturn's going to station retrograde at also 2 degrees. Saturn's going to station at the same degree that Neptune stationed at 9 days previously. And then 5 days after that, Mercury's going to station retrograde.
So it's almost like the turning of the planets during that time, as they always do these retrograde cycles, but the peak parts of those are the station periods just before, just after the retrograde actually happens. Yeah,
So,
I can understand that.
That's going, so like July 7th, like when we get to that area, that's going to be our window into the future starts July through end of August, because that's where we're going to have Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, and Pluto all in the signs that they're going to be in for the next several years. We're going to have, instead of all 4 planets being in feminine signs for that period, July 7th through the end of August, all 4 outer planets, the 4 outermost planets, are all going to be in air or fire signs. So it's going, things are going to be much more outwardly
Externalized. Yeah. So it's a shift though when you look at the planets from the perspective of the outer planets and then kind of go in. I think I think you kind of taught me that, as opposed to looking at just the inner planets. The inner planets, of course, they influence us all personally, but that's why they call them personal planets, because they move so quickly and such, and they really relate to our chart individually. But when we look at the outer planets and we're seeing the shifts that happen, and we see as they collectively influence us, that's when things, I think, shift us as a collective, as a society, in different ways. So it's interesting how we have become internalized. When did that start? What year was that when they were starting to all be in these feminine signs as opposed to the masculine signs?
Well, they all kind of, so Uranus started like 7 years ago. Pluto started like 16 years ago. Neptune started.
They all start at different times. That's true.
Yeah, Neptune started 14 years ago. But for the last, where's Saturn? Saturn's in Pisces. So the last little bit over a year, all the outer planets have been in feminine signs. That's where we've had Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And some of that time, Pluto's been in Aquarius and then back into Capricorn, and Aquarius, Capricorn, back and forth.
Yeah,
But
because it's making that
was
transition.
yeah. So like when Saturn entered Pisces is when we had that shift of things into all the outer planets being in feminine signs. So that started March of 2023 is when Saturn first entered Pisces.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, what has gone on in those last couple of years. That's where my brain was going out with that because, we are collectively influenced by this. If it's not you, it's your neighbor or your whatever relative, somebody that is influenced by this around you. Right. I mean, like directly, if that makes sense. But it does influence us, as a group in that way. So it's quite interesting. And it feels like I don't know when they started putting out the AI stuff. Was that in was that in 23? Was that like when they started becoming more open to? I know that's been going on for a long time, but it hasn't been something people, like everyday people, could just get. Like their hands on.
So I think, let's see. I think Chat GPT was.
I think it was 23.
When it really. So it was November 30th of 2022. So so yeah, a month before 2023 started.
Interesting. Yeah, but it took a little bit of time for people to hop onto that too,
Right,
and I mean, obviously it's still growing. Do you know what they did over the Christmas break too? I mean, since the last time even you and I talked, I thought it was interesting. They did this whole like almost advent calendar thing with ChatGPT where they were giving, and I don't think it was a full, like if it was an advent calendar, but I think it was like 10 or 12 days or something. So they kept outrolling different. I read an article about this, that's why I know. Outrolling different features of it, and one of the features, and I did play with it because I was like, oh, this is so interesting, is that you can now give it a prompt. You know how you could give it a prompt and it would pull up a picture, draw you a picture, make you a picture, whatever. Now it does that with video. Like, and it's creepy because I wouldn't feed it like images, because it's like you can send it images and it will take your image and manipulate those, or you can give it words. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not giving it images of mine, but that's, because that's even creepier. But, it's weird because you don't know what's real anymore. If I didn't know that fairies didn't exist, I would have thought the image of the fairy sitting there in the forest reading tarot cards that I had it create for me was actually real. Because it was so pretty. I mean, it was so pretty. I sent it to Nick, my sister-in-law, because it's like she likes fairies and it's green and purple, like our colors. And I'm like, look at this. She's like, oh my God, it looks so real. It looks realistic, it's only going to get better because, aren't they like on some level is the AI is training itself at this point, so it's like the humans are more
with all the whatever, probably millions of people using it at this point. I think the growth is exponential. I think the more people putting data in, I think the faster it grows.
Right.
So it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will.
Have you ever had a conversation with it? Have you ever played with it at all? I know you're not really big on it. I've had some really creepy conversations with it, asking it about, like, what do you think the future of the world is going to be like? Because I'm curious, like, tell me. It does this weird thing, though, because, like, I'm into psychology. I'm an astrologer. I consult people. So I get the way people think. But it does this weird thing. Instead of giving you a direct answer, it gives you a question about what do you think, like kind of turns it around on you. I'm like, no, that's not what you do. And this is what I think in my head. Now I'm saying it out loud, it's going to know. But like I'm trying to get it to answer me as opposed to asking me a question, because even the answers that you give it are the data that it's looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So So yeah, so
a little scary.
I don't know where I'm not sure where this is all going to end up.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really knows, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we covered the craziness of the January, the transits that we're going to look at. You mentioned Venus going to Pisces. That's a nice energy, and that's going to happen today. I don't know if it already has or not. Venus moving into Pisces.
It's at like 10:24 Eastern time tonight.
Okay, well that's good. That actually is a nice energy, maybe to make people feel a little less stressed out, because the Mars opposite Pluto, I feel like, is very combustible. I wouldn't be surprised if there was more combustible things that happen in the world. Mm-hmm.
Right, because like 3 hours before the Mars Pluto opposition is exact, early tomorrow morning, there's a moon in Aquarius square Uranus and Taurus. So
let me just.
I would not be
Uranus and Taurus in public.
I would not be out in public tonight. This is F around and find out energy where we're at right now.
Which is slightly terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. I wouldn't either. I've said that to myself. I'm going to hide until maybe next year. Just kind of stay low key in my little plot of land and live like that, because it is a little crazy. And people can't help themselves, though. They want to go out and do things and be out in the world, and I don't blame them. I don't think it's necessarily the best thing to do is to not be out in the world, but I feel like the way that things are volatile, and that we've been demonstrated in the last less than 48 hours how that can happen, might be better to just be safe. Yeah. So other than the crazy volatile stuff of Mars and opposite Pluto at 1 degree of Leo Aquarius, which is right there on my midheaven, and I will say I'm really sick of Mars. Not Mars, but Pluto and Uranus. They can both leave for all I care. I'm ready for them to get away from my angles. That's very challenging, but if I make it, then I think I'm strong.
Yes.
But other than that, how could you channel Mars opposite Pluto in a healthy way? Like, what would you tell someone? How to use that?
So the way to use that is if you have a really big task to do, or a really big project or something like that that's going to take like a lot of energy or a long sustained energy. I think that's the way to go with that, because that energy is so volatile. Like if you don't run it off, doing something constructive, then that's when you can have accidents and things.
Would you tell people to be more, say, if someone has a planet or an angle on or around that's aspecting this axis of Mars and Pluto, would you tell them to just be more, because the energy is there. So this is where I get kind of like unsure, and maybe it just depends on where the person is at. But, if the energy is there, you're going to have a lot of energy to do things and a lot of sustainability and compulsion to do things because of the Pluto in it. Would you tell them to kind of walk around that and meditate and be Zen, or channel it to doing something constructive? Like, what do you think is a better way to handle it?
I would channel it to doing something constructive. I don't think like tonight, like right now, like Venus is at 29 Aquarius, and we're building towards a moon Uranus square, and Mars and Pluto are in opposition. Like this is not I'm gonna sit down and relax type. Like, and I think you're just going to be like antsy and twitchy, I think is so with
So
with this
channeling it.
much. Yeah, I don't know that you're going to meditate your way out of this one. That's,
I agree with that. I think that it's better to use the energy in the way that you would get the most use out of it. And I agree, the meditation out of it isn't really going to happen. You might feel even more anxiety if you don't let it out in some way. That's what I always kind of feel
right,
myself happens with myself, but I wondered how you
right.
felt about it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
Yeah. And then okay, so January 6th is one of the days, the interesting days. That's when Mars goes into Cancer. Mars goes into Cancer, and that it retrogrades. It re-enters into Cancer. It's in retrograde, and it re-enters into Cancer, and that is 29 degrees of Cancer. How far back does it go? Do you know before it goes direct again?
Well, not that far. Um, oh no, I'm sorry. It goes back to 17, so it goes almost halfway through. So it does go back
Interesting.
that far.
So, okay, I didn't know. I was wondering if it re-entered or reconnected with the sun of the chart of the United States, which is 13 degrees of Cancer, but it doesn't. So it only goes to 17. Well,
Yeah.
that's a good
So
thing.
that's a good thing. Yes, we don't need Mars on our sun. We've got enough
No, we
issues.
really don't. We've had enough of that. That's very true. Yeah. Okay. And so when Mars is in Cancer for that period of time, what things would you be expecting to see going on in the world?
So 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 every like in the astrological world, like I've noticed there's a lot of hatred towards Mars and Cancer. I think it's if the energy is displayed properly, like that. Mars and Cancer is protecting your shit. Your home, Mars is or Cancer's the crab who wears its home on its back. So I think um, when you have um, Mars in Cancer is defensive of its possessions, loved ones, family, animals, whatnot. Um, I think that the Mars in Cancer energy is a great protector energy. I know it's in its detriment or fall or whatever, but I think as long as you use the energy, like you don't want it. It's like the Mars Pluto opposition. Like Mars energy is not gonna just go away. Like you've got to do something with it. If not, you're just gonna sit around and be agitated. So it's
Mm-hmm.
best to do something with the Mars energy. Like
Mm-hmm.
Mars and Cancer would be a great time for like fixing stuff around your house, doing home repairs, and upgrading your security systems. That's all good, like Mars and Cancer stuff. Because Mars and Cancer is about protecting things.
Right. So you're nurturing your thing or your home and the things that are going on in your home. That makes sense. Okay. Mars moves out of Cancer when? Do you know?
Uh, but it's going to be a few months because it's got to retrograde back to 17, and it's April 8th. So it's in the middle of that dicey period. It's April 18th.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
So it's going to be a few months.
People are not people are not ready for. Not that the last 4 years have not been easy, but a lot of the energy's been inwardly focused. this is going to be one for the record books. This year is going to be crazy because everyone's energy is going to be extremely high compared to like the last 4 years.
Compared to the last 4 years, and it's 2025. I guess I can't help but compare things to all the way to 2020. That when Pluto and Saturn made that conjunction, it seems kind of
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, like Pluto was conjunct Jupiter and Mars very close to that.
Yep. I remember Saturn. A meme that was, yes, that was going on with all of those. It was like about all of those planets, and it said something like, the beatings will continue until the lessons are begun or understood, or something like that. Like people getting all up in arms about that.
Until morale improves, yes.
Yes, that's what it was. And I'm like, this is hysterical, and people just get so mad at things. Sometimes they take things too personally, but I don't know. So, okay. Well, Mars, I guess we'll be happier in Leo when it moves back into Leo. Hopefully. We'll see. All right. So then we move on. If we move on, oh, wait a second. I wanted to ask you one more thing about January 6th. So January 6th obviously is a big day for the United States politically. Is that only because of what happened January 6th 4 years ago? Or is there another reason you said that?
Well, that's also the date when they have to certify the election results.
Oh, is it always on the 6th? Oh, I didn't realize it was always on the 6th. Okay. So
I don't know if I'm pretty sure that's because that's kind of when yeah, I believe that's the correct date. So I would be beyond shocked and amazed if like January 6th just came and went without any the possibilities are almost limitless.
That's terrifying. That's a terrifying thing to say. I'm sorry, Mark.
Everything is on the board.
Yeah. And I did hear that they were planning on big celebrations. And I mean, for obvious reasons, they're wanting to celebrate the new president and all of that. But yeah, I think that there's potential for a lot of chaos. And the problem with it is that things like you were saying earlier about things not being exactly what you think they are. And I think that's what happened the last January 6th is things got out of hand and was not exactly what we saw them to be on the surface. And problems arise from that alone, right?
That is correct.
Well, I found the missing element. Did I show you my pin? I think it's the best pin in the world. My brother gave this to me for Christmas. So here, in case anybody wants to know, the missing element is this. It goes in the periodic table, but yes, and it says the element of surprise. So that's what it is. So yeah, we're gonna go with that for this year. I thought it was perfect. My brother knows so much astrology. Actually, he doesn't know any, but he knows what's going on. Oh boy. Yeah, January 6th is going to be an interesting time. And on January 6th, what was going on astrologically? That was when Mars re-enters into Cancer. And then we move on, and January 8th is Mercury going into Capricorn. Mercury going into Capricorn, what is that? That has people thinking about things from the broader, bigger perspective, don't you think?
Yeah, well, I think Mercury entering Capricorn has people trying to be grounded and more dutiful and responsible, I think, is
mentally like grounded and stable, but that doesn't always happen that way. But yeah, it's an attempt of sorts.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with not by aspect, but by sign anyways, Mars is going to be opposite Mercury. Because Mars is going to be at the end of Cancer, Mercury is going to be at the beginning of Capricorn.
Yeah.
So at a point, they're going to meet and they'll be in opposition.
Right.
But it will be fast moving because both those planets move fairly fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's going to be an interesting beginning. I mean, it's already the second. It's an interesting beginning part of the year. And then we move on to the nodes on the 12th. The 12th, we have the North Node entering into Pisces at 12 degrees or 29 degrees. 12 degrees Pisces? How would that even work? No, 29 degrees Pisces. So the nodes are moving retrograde at this point, right? And they move into the very end degree of the zodiac. What happens here? What happens when that? You're more a node person than me. I understand the nodes, but only through the lens of
so that's
other people's eyes.
So the North Node it's just going to be like a focus point. So because it's the moon's nodes, it's the lunar nodes, and I think I mean, it's just going to highlight the strength because when the North Node enters Pisces, it's going to be conjunct Neptune. So it's going to magnify the weird. It's more fuel for the bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
And Venus for the bizarre. And Venus is already in Pisces at that point too, and Saturn's already there. So that gives us 4 things in Pisces at that point.
Mm-hmm. Magnifying the strange. How long does the node stay in Pisces? The
nodes stay in any sign for about a year and a half.
Is that it? Yeah. So the North Node be in Pisces, the South Node in Virgo.
And the nodes kind of dictate where our eclipses are. What signs our eclipses are in. So the next year and a half, our eclipses are going to be in Pisces and Virgo.
Oh, really? All of them? I didn't even look at the eclipses that far ahead. That's interesting. Yeah. Wow. Pisces and Virgo. Those are interesting. There's an interesting dynamic there with the eclipses. I think that it seems like
most of them are. The second eclipse of the 4 for this year is in Aries. So it's a revisit to where the nodes just were. It's the last one of that cycle. But most of the eclipses for the next year and a half are going to be in Pisces or Virgo.
Interesting. Yeah. So on an evolutionary perspective, what would you say would be something that has been a repeated theme, or is there even a repeated theme with the nodes in Pisces and
so I think that's
and Virgo?
Well, so I think what you're going to get is so North Node in Pisces is going to be spirituality. I think people are looking spiritually for answers from different places.
Different places, as in like more turning to God or turning to I don't know, whatever they interpret God to be.
Yeah, or different from where they know, and maybe too, it can be more like looking at things more on a spiritual level and not an organized religion level.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. And then we have, that winds up our Capricorn sun time, our Capricorn season time. We move into the 19th of January, and then the sun moves into the sign of Aquarius. Yay, Sun in Aquarius is going to be meeting up Pluto, which will be super fun. The sun and Pluto. But what do you feel about the Aquarius season that we have ahead of us? Anything specific that pops out to you?
So just usually when the sun enters Aquarius, that's usually when we get that, because Aquarius is shocks and surprises and things to like shake up our routine. So I think this, when the sun enters Aquarius, that's usually when we get kind of that, we're in that slumber after the holiday season.
Holidays.
Then to me, like when the sun enters Aquarius, that's when like we wake back up again. Because Uranus is the great awakener, and Uranus rules Aquarius.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you feel like people will start being more awakened to what's going on around us. Would that seems like it would induce a little bit of craziness, because when people start opening their eyes, it can be unsettling.
I think that's when the shocks start. That's when like the chaos starts rolling, is when like the sun enters Aquarius.
That's when the chaos starts happening. Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah. And after, so you didn't put in here though when Pluto and the Sun conjunct. Do you know what date that is? Or maybe I pulled up the wrong list.
I mean, that should be January 20th.
Oh yeah, 21st. That's right. It's going to be a wonderful solar return.
Yes, that's
so excited about
Tuesday. That. Tuesday, January 21st is the Sun Pluto conjunction.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about that?
So that's almost always the day of intensity, because the sun is shining its light on Pluto. Pluto is death, rebirth, transformation. So there's almost always big events on the days of the Sun Pluto conjunction.
Well, I'm going back in time. Every time that this happens has always been like in the last several years. Of course, it's always been right at the end of Capricorn. Now it's going into Aquarius, because that's where Pluto has been forever. So, it's been almost like a bit of, if you have planets in those late degrees of Capricorn, early degrees of Aquarius, it's like a repeated theme to have opportunity for changes or growth, movement. Almost like it needs to be done. Otherwise, difficulty can arise within the person. Now that it's moving into, so now that Pluto will be making conjunction with the Sun in Aquarius, what, if anything, what kind of difference of energy would it be like as opposed to when the Sun was making conjunction with Pluto in Capricorn?
Well, I think it's way less oppressive.
It's way less oppressive.
I think. Yeah, because like the Sun Pluto conjunctions, and the same thing with every month with the Moon Pluto conjunctions. Because we have one every month. It's like the Moon Pluto conjunctions in Aquarius are, there's like an odd feeling to it, but it's way less harsh than I mean, at least for me, it's like 90% less harsh than when the Sun or Moon are conjunct Pluto when they're in Capricorn, because those are always just like, that was like meltdown time.
Right.
And that's more the Aquarius energy is much, I think, less of a downer than the Capricorn energy can be sometimes. The Aquarius energy is more inquisitive, whereas I think the Capricorn energy is more nose to the grindstone.
Yeah. I feel like I've been beat up lately. Just like pick up the Pluto and the Uranus. The Uranus is on my ascendant too, so I think everybody feels a little bit like that, but I don't know. Especially these particular degrees have not been fun. Yeah. Okay, and we move on. When we move on to the end of the month, we have Uranus station direct. That happens at January 30th, and that's 23 Taurus. So, I mean, does it go back to 23 Taurus ever? That's the real question. Because, or is it like gone for
No,
good?
it does not go. It does not go back that far again. I think the next.
This
I
is the
think the
last
next
one.
round. Yeah, the next round is the last one, and I think it only goes back to where are we at? We're in 2025. How about that? Yeah. So the final Uranus station in Taurus is February of 2026, and it's at like 27 and a half of Taurus. And that will be the last station of Uranus in Taurus is February of 2026. So it's this Uranus station will be at the lowest degree of Taurus that we're going to have, for 84 years or whatever.
I mean, that's good with me because honestly, the last station was also, I think, 23 degrees, wasn't it? I think it was.
It was.
It was something like that. It was definitely close.
Yeah. It was in that ballpark. Should have been.
Mm-hmm.
So that. Where did this go?
And that's also. I mean, I think Algol is 25 degrees of Taurus, so it's like right where Algol is at,
Yeah.
the fixed star Algol. Do you ever use the fixed stars?
Yeah. Yes. I think we talked about that in one episode. How just. Oh. No, we did, because it was last August was the Uranus-Algol conjunction when all the assassination attempts and stuff started. That was,
and it was Mars was also there too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a little bit on the crazy side for that. I mean, but Algol I think is 25 degrees. It's really close, but not exactly 23. Close enough, because honestly, Uranus is gonna be there for quite a while when it stays stationed. It appears to look like it's stopped in the sky, but it's really obviously not. It's just that optical illusion of being on planet Earth.
Yeah.
That's the exciting windup of January, right? So
yeah, I think that.
Yeah,
I think that covers January. We can, if you want to take a minute, we can maybe look at a couple of the other highlights for the year, and then
let's do it.
And then call it a day, and then we'll pick up next month.
That sounds good. So let's move on to the next highlight. What's the next highlight that you want to think about?
So I guess these are just like oddities and stuff that I noticed. So like the eclipses, so March 14th is the first one at 24 Virgo, and that's a lunar eclipse. So for people born in the mid to late 1960s, that eclipse is going to be on your Uranus and possibly also your Pluto. So I would expect that to be. I would keep my schedule clear for like March 14th, for that like next week. I think because Mercury goes retrograde the day after. So we got like Mercury goes retrograde the day after a lunar eclipse. So I think that's. I can see there being a lot of, and also, you know what, that eclipse is going to be pretty close to the Sun, Saturn, and Neptune. They're all going to be, when you look at the planets
The
for that
chart.
day. It's like
Mm-hmm.
so it's like the North Node's at 27 Pisces. The Sun's at 20. Where's that at? Where did I go? The Sun's at 24 Pisces. The Moon's at 24 Virgo in opposition. But also then Saturn is at 22 Pisces. Uranus is at 24 Taurus. So it's forming a trine to the lunar eclipse. So I'm going to repeat. Uranus is forming a trine to the lunar eclipse degree in Earth signs. And then Neptune is at 29 Pisces. So we've got a Sun, North Node, Saturn, Neptune, stellium in Pisces, opposite the Moon, and the Moon is getting a trine from Uranus. Don't ask me what that sounds like. Sounds like the circus is coming to town that day. That's what. And what's funny then is then the second eclipse is March 29th, but it's at 9 degrees Aries, and it's a solar eclipse. So it's but it's going to be way weaker than the big eclipse last April. It's not going to be that.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a total solar eclipse and everybody out in their lawn chairs and everything. That's shockingly, that one's actually going to be calmer than the lunar eclipse.
Ugh. Yeah. Well, where does the solar eclipse? I mean, the reason people were looking at it is because it was going over their houses or whatever.
Yeah,
where's the solar eclipse pass?
Total solar eclipse, and it cut the United States in half and cut it in fours, mixed with the
2017
with the 2017 Great American Eclipse. So this will be that March 29th eclipse will be far less potent.
Yeah, it looks like, I just looked it up. It's going to be more the edge of the western edge of Europe and north part of North America, maybe the very, very northeast part and some of Canada. We're not really going to be able to see it. I don't think it's even a full solar eclipse, is it?
No, I don't think so. I don't.
Yeah. So I mean, it seems like the full solar eclipses have more weight to them. Maybe, I don't know if that's been your experience with them.
Yeah,
it's just my anecdotal view. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So that's going to be exciting. That will be March. So there's 2 eclipses in March, and then
the other 2 are in September. September 7th, there's a lunar eclipse at 15 Pisces. And September 21st, there's a solar eclipse at 29 Virgo, which will also be trine Uranus, and it will be opposite Neptune. So the people born in the late 1960s, that eclipse will be conjunct your Uranus and your Pluto.
Have you pulled up the chart for the 15 September eclipse?
I've not. I pulled up the one for the March 14th one, and I was kind of like, okay, I'm done here.
You're finished. That was all I wanted. Well, I mean, interesting.
It's going to be powerful.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, too, we have the 2 sextiles from Neptune going sextile to Uranus and to Pluto. And then, of course, Uranus and Pluto are trining. So there's this energy between all of those planets because there were 0 or 1 degrees at the time of the eclipse in September on the 15th. And then on the other side, so that was, that's on the one side of the chart. And the other side of the chart is you have 2 semi-sextiles and a sextile with Venus, Mars, and then Mercury and the Sun in the middle. So it's kind of on both at the same time. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it should be an interesting September.
Yes.
And then we have the solar eclipse on the 21st, right? And that's going to be at the end degrees of 29
That's 29 Virgo.
Virgo. Yeah. I'm scared to pull that chart up.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it anyway. And that's actually one of my, well, when the moon moves into Libra, it's like one of my favorite days of the year because I love the energy of the fall, and that just seems to be a nice thing all around. Yeah, that's also a very strong chart to look at too, because we're also inching closer to getting Saturn and Neptune conjunct each other in the very beginning of Aries. What degree does that happen? I know that I'm skipping around here, but what degree does Saturn and Neptune actually make the conjunction?
0 Aries.
In March. Is it 0 Aries? Okay. Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't actually meet up until 2026.
Right. But they're
And
close enough that there's going to be, it's like the cheese.
they're close most of this year. Once Saturn's direct now, so once it does its little jog and makes up a few degrees, it's going to be close for like this whole year. Next year and a half, they're going to be close.
It's, yeah. What do you think about, I mean, I understand, like, so Saturn wants to make things be structured and makes things be focused and have some kind of intention in the physical 3D world. Neptune is more seeking the divine. What do you think about those two? I mean, in terms of a collective view,
Yeah. Well, I think it's what kind of like what we talked about at the beginning with your normal responses to your normal problem solving things aren't going to work because Saturn is the 3D world and Neptune is the metaphysical world. So you're going to have to make adjustments because they're not going to, things are not going to flow like they normally do. So you're going to have to try different things to make things work.
Right. That makes sense. I'm also looking for something outside of the ordinary, looking for something that's more in alignment with who you are, or more in alignment with what you're becoming, what you're transitioning into. I guess that's the right word.
Yeah.
All right, so we covered March, and we were talking about all of the eclipses that going on in March, and then April. Is there any like highlights of April that you want to cover? Mars opposite Pluto again in April. That's going to be fun.
I think there's so much in March and April that we should probably do those in the monthly show because I could do like 3 hours on each of those months, I think. And we need to spend a lot of time, I think, going over the correct chart for 2025, which is the Aries ingress, which is the spring solstice.
Yeah.
Because that's a chart. That's a chart you're going to want to remember.
I have not even looked at that, but that is going to be interesting.
It's not like other charts.
It's like a chart you never know.
It's a Sun, Neptune, North Node, stellium.
Oh.
Yeah, we're going to want to talk about that for a couple hours, I think.
Okay, that sounds like a fun. Yeah, I don't know if it's fun or terrifying.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull it up just to look at it. Now you've got me curious. Okay. So, okay, then that's March and April. What about May? May doesn't look extremely crazy, does it?
Well, yeah. Yeah. It does.
Yeah, I just pulled up the spring chart, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 planets within 8 degrees, 9 degrees of each other.
Yep. Yep.
Talk about a congestion.
Yes. That's going to be an entertaining scenario.
Yeah, that will be a fun show to do. We'll definitely have stuff to cover there on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so May is a full moon in Scorpio, 22 degrees Scorpio. So, okay, here's my complaint of this full moon BS, because I'm sick of 23 degrees Taurus and Scorpio getting smacked. Okay, because Uranus has been living there for the last couple of years, and I know this. Well, maybe not years. I'm being a little hyperbolic, but I'm tired of it. Can we make it move? Now we're getting a full moon exactly there. Oh, come on. Okay, tell me about May. Aside from the full moon complaints.
So the thing about May is Pluto stations retrograde May 4th, and there's a full moon in Scorpio on May 12th, and then Saturn enters Aries on May 24th. So we've got Saturn changing signs and Pluto stationing in the same month, with the full moon in between.
Yeah, you were right. May is deceiving because it's only a few things, but there are a few powerful things that are happening. Do you expect it to be more chaotic during that time, or more like things seem to be a little bit more calmed down from the earlier part of the year?
So I think it'll be so. So I think the issue is whatever happens between March 14th and April 27th. I think those are not going to be one-off things. Those things are going to be connected, and they're going to stretch through the rest of the year.
From the lunar eclipse on the 14th to the 27th, you said?
Through March 14th through April 27th is a series of events that are probably going to be connected.
I see. Interesting. What do you think they're going to show us? I mean, do you have like any ideas of what that could look like?
I think a bunch of fake stuff that's not really happening. I don't think they're going to let all these planets through 29 Pisces go without showing us a bunch of. We're going to have a lot more drones and a lot more unexplained things that.
Yeah, that's really weird. Why did they do that? They never.
It's because of the Pisces energy. They can't. There is no explanation for it.
It was like, we're looking at it and investigating it, and I'm like, but you're the FBI.
Right.
It was kind of like the balloon that was going over I mean, that was a few years ago, but
how do they know the drones aren't a threat unless they're the ones? I'm going to get this.
They don't.
Off of YouTube. It's going to happen.
Right. So worse things have happened.
They're lying. So they're lying about it. Then either they're behind it, or they know what's going on and they're not going to tell us. There's no way you can
Or
not know what something is, but no, it's not a threat. How do you know it's not a
right,
threat if you don't know what it is?
it doesn't make
It doesn't make any sense.
it really doesn't. It really truly doesn't. Do you think, okay, so I've heard these things, not to get political, but I can't help it. The world is political right now, and I'm not looking at things from a biased perspective here. I'm just looking at what I've been seeing. And I saw that, the administration coming in was talking about the three-letter agencies that we have in the government, right? And FBI and all these other things, and that they're going to be like dispersing them and kind of like cleaning them up, right? Have you heard about that?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
But
Do you think that's going to be something real?
No.
No. You think
I
it's going to,
think
because
with
it's
the cabinet that he wants to put in, is most of them are not going to make it in.
Really?
Yeah, they're not. Congress is not going to approve
voted,
all the people to put in.
right. They'll be voted not to be in. And that's the problem. That's really the problem, because
right. So then you have to guess at what his second and third level people are.
right. Right. And that's the problem. Whether you like him or not, have the new president be again, whether you like him or not, that's besides the point. But the fact that things get blocked by other parts of the government, not permitting things to be infiltrated in the sense of cleaning things up or getting rid of the stuff that really shouldn't be there in the first place. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to get us banned off of YouTube now. It's my turn. But that is the problem. Don't you agree? I mean, honestly, it's okay. I'm okay with that. I really am.
I mean, I'm already shadow banned anyways. So
at this point, yeah. In all honesty, you are, because if I try to tag you in something, half the time it doesn't work. I'm like, why does that? It tries to pop up your brother. I'm like, what? Because your last names are the same. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. It's very weird. But technology is not your friend.
No, it's not.
It is what it is, though, right? What are we supposed to do? All right. So May is going to be eventful. What about June? June is going to be an interesting shift.
So the beginning of June and the end of June are not similar. They're different. Like June 9th, Jupiter enters Cancer, and that's going to be good. But then once we get into the middle of June, June 15th is the last of the Jupiter-Saturn squares. And then also, as a bonus, on the same day, June 15th, Mars square Uranus. So we have Jupiter square Saturn and Mars square Uranus on the same day. I'm not gonna make any guesses as to what that's going to be, but I'm sure everyone will be talking about the same thing that day, whatever it is.
I mean, whatever it is potential for shocking surprises, right? Minimal. And also, I agree, as like the conversation will be geared around a certain specific event.
And it could be something to do with the drones. That is a potential topic. Because we have Jupiter, which is long distance travel, square Saturn, which is the structures of our reality. Then we have Mars square to Uranus, and Uranus is weird things. So we having two major squares on the same day is probably not going to be boring.
That's June, you said? June 15th, right?
June 15th. Yes, June 15th should be marked on everyone's calendars. The event may not happen on that day, but
around that
you can
day.
pretty much guarantee there's going to be a big event very close to that day.
And the thing is that Jupiter and Saturn, not Jupiter and Saturn, Saturn and Neptune are so close to each other at that time that Saturn and Neptune are, but they're both squaring. It might not exact
Yes.
on that day.
Saturn and Neptune are conjunct at that point.
Yeah, they are. I just pulled up the chart.
2 days after that, Mars enters Virgo, and 1 day after that, there's an exact Jupiter-Neptune square.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you think about it from this bigger perspective, and you're looking at for instance, the Saturn and Jupiter thing, which doesn't happen very often, the conjunction that will be coming up into 2026, when we get these squares from planets like Jupiter happening now before, the actual conjunction happens, we're getting almost like a prelude, right? When you say that, a preview of what is to come, like we're setting ourselves up for that. That's the way I always look at the squares and the oppositions and such. And then we come around to the conjunctions, and that's like the full pinnacle of whatever that energy is.
Yeah. I think that will definitely be a preview. Just as when, like Saturn and Neptune entering Aries, is going to be a preview of the next several years with those, but then they're going to retrograde back into Pisces, and then they're going to go into Aries again, and so they're going to jump back and forth. But you get a little couple month preview, like we got with all the Pluto entrances into Aquarius before.
Yeah, the little preview, if you will. Okay, so this is June. I mean, in the end of June, you said it's different than the beginning of June. The energies shift.
I think that the energy, the first part of June focuses, I think, on Jupiter entering Cancer. Then the second half, you've got all these squares happening with Mars in Virgo, whereas Mars is in Leo. Like the first beginning of June, Mars is in Leo, and Jupiter's at the end of Gemini for the first 8 days. So much more lighthearted feel the first half of June. Then we've got those 3 squares and Mars entering Virgo the second half, when we start the second half of June. So feels a lot more intense the second half of June than the first half.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Does it get better in July? I'm almost afraid to ask you questions like that, because in 2019, when we were going to do when we were talking about 2020, I think it was then that I asked you, is it going to get easier? You said, no, it will not get easier. I really need that soundbite to play, like when you text me or something. So funniest comment in the world. But yeah, I mean, do you think it's going to get better in July? Is it going to be easier than the
July is the second biggest part of the year. That's the second, like that middle part of June through the first half of July is the second biggest energy of the year after the March and April.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, I see, in July. And we have the Neptune station retrograde to Aries, and Neptune goes back into Pisces for a bit of time during this retrograde cycle, right?
Yeah. And then then you got the Uranus entering Gemini 3 days after that. So and then the Saturn station. So that's that probably needs to be its own show also.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually glad Uranus is moving into Gemini. I'm sick of it being in Taurus. But I mean, that's just my own personal feelings about it. I feel like
Yeah,
I've gotten
no,
beat up a lot from Uranus lately. But I mean, it's at the same time, Uranus and Gemini is not all that stable either. Collectively, would you say that's true?
well, historically, Uranus and Gemini coincides with the United States being in a war.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, that's a big sarcasm there. That's actually scary. I didn't know that.
Yeah, World War II. I believe the Civil War. There's most Uranus and Gemini cycles. The United States has been in a war.
Let's hope that Uranus. Let's hope that this one is a change. Let's pray that is a thing. And I only say that because I know that the last time he was in office, there was no wars begun. Hopefully, that will remain the same for him, and no wars will be begun. But never know. All right. So, also having go ahead.
I think maybe we should stop at that point. At this point, maybe.
Yeah, and we can always revisit the rest of the year later.
The second half of the, because I think the March and April shows we're going to need to go into significant detail on those things, and the same thing for June and July, because I think after July, middle of July is not the same as before the middle of July.
Things are going to shift. I agree.
One of these things does not belong.
Which is scary to think about which one.
Yeah. So,
all right. Well, this was fun. This was fun and interesting and terrifying all at the same time. I'm super excited. It's 2025.
Or at least eventually it will be.
Honestly, we'll look back one day and be like, dang, remember 2025 when that was so crazy? All those planets were 0 degrees.
Before the aliens landed, remember that?
And before the craziness started going on, the drones started beaming people up into the sky, and who knows what chaos is going to go on.
Yes.
All right. So we'll see you. I guess we'll see you on the next one, everybody. Thanks for watching. Let us know what your month is like.
These late dates have been my fault, not Starlene's. So
that's okay. No, I mean, it was the Christmas holidays. Yeah, it was the holidays. People were. Yeah. All right. So that will be the end of that. We'll see you on the next one.